to meet the domestic demand. So when the domestic economy did not grow and the government decided to increase minimum wage, trying to address the agitation of the labor unions with money illusion, that further aggravates the inflationary situation in the country, because prices of goods and services is already high, continuously increasing, and goods and services, the volume of goods and services did not grow, and you decided to increase the minimum wage. What that means is that people will demand for more goods now because their income has been increased, even at that high price. And that will create a situation where there's higher demand over supply in the domestic economy. And because we've devalued our currency, if you want to import goods produced outside to the country, it becomes more expensive and further worsen the inflationary problem. So we want to get out of inflation. The NLC and other unions decided to embark on industrial action, and the government increased salary or increased minimum wage, which is pure money illusion, giving the NLC and other unions this impression that their welfare has been increased by increasing the minimum wage, when the volume of goods and services has not increased. That will lead to further increase in the inflationary rate and a complete fall in the real income of the masses, fall in their welfare. So, because at times we decide to manage our economy by implementing policies, maybe based on what is written in text and literature and whatsoever, we decide to implement it, without actually looking at the practicability in our own scenario. Will NLC demand for increase in income, increase in minimum wage, when the domestic goods and services did not grow, the right thing to do? Majority will say yes. Because it's the fastest thing that the NLC and other sister unions can easily achieve from the government within a very short time. Now, should the government increase minimum wage when there's inflation and the volume of goods and services is not making any appreciable progress? Majority will say yes. Excuse me. Majority will say yes. The government should increase minimum wage so that the civil servant and people can be able to afford goods and services. This is the main argument in the society. But do these actions solve the problem of inflation? That is very, very important. In reality, they do not. Because, yes, NLC demand for increase in minimum wage is the easiest thing they can achieve within the shortest time. Then the federal government increase the minimum wage because it's also the easiest thing they can do within the shortest time. And they know it will not necessarily improve the welfare of the civil servant or of the masses. If goods and services, mostly domestic goods and services, did not make appreciable growth. But if we want to solve inflation problem in Nigeria, then these two options are not the only thing we should do, and should not be the first thing that we should do. The first thing we should do is, can we grow our domestic economy, the rich sector, the goods, the services within the country? Is it possible for us to grow it so that they will be abundant? Because once they are abundant, they are more, it means there's more supply. Or, second option, can we import these goods and services into the country to be distributed, not as a gift, but through government regulated outlets at a subsidized price? Let's talk about subsidy in these goods and services. I know there's other challenges when it comes to subsidy: the human factor, the corruptions, the bottleneck, artificial scarcity and the likes, black market and the rest. So if we can grow our economy, it's good and fine. There will be more goods and services, and price may not likely respond to increase in income, increase in minimum wage, like the way it will if increase in minimum wage is done where the domestic economy is not growing, where the goods and services in the economy cannot meet a certain high percentage of the domestic demand. and there are no available means to get subsidized goods and services. For example, talk about transportation services. In other countries, they have public transport that provide these services at a subsidized rate. Excuse me. They have a government key distributing outlet where some stable goods are sold at a subsidized price. So if we have this, inflation will not be this serious, and it will not establish a vicious cycle where we are in inflation. We want to solve the inflation problem. We adopt policies that worsen the situation to more inflation in such a way that the welfare of an average Nigeria is higher before the implementation of increase in minimum wage. You can check it. You can check it. The goods and services you used to afford at certain prices before the implementation of minimum wage, you discover that goods and services are now more expensive after the increment of minimum wage. Why? Because the goods and services, the volume of goods and services is not growing. And people now have more income with them to demand for more. And the market, producers, retailers, everybody involved in this value chain is aware that the government has implemented increase in minimum wage. They will automatically increase the prices of their goods and services. And we must remember that whenever there's national minimum wage done by the federal government, it's expected that state government, local government, private sector follow suit. But that is not the case. That is not the case. And every worker in this be it federal, state, local government, as well as the private sector, all use the same market at the same price. So you discover that maybe the welfare of those in the federal parastatal agencies and the like would increase a little. Those in the state government, because hardly will state government implement same percentage that has been implemented by the federal government. So you see their situation will get worse off. Because when the market is responding to the national minimum wage, they don't discriminate whether you are a federal government staff, state government staff, local government staff, or you don't have work, the same price for everybody. So we are in inflation at some point. We want to solve this inflation. We want to alleviate it. We want to reduce the inflationary pressure. We implement policies that further aggravate the inflationary situation in the country. So we keep moving from one inflation to another inflation, which is even worse because from certain rate, we implement policies But because these policies are not holistic in nature, that is, we did not take so many things into consideration before implementing these policies. So when we implement it and the inflation rate is, let's say, 10%, it will lead to a situation where the new inflation rate will be more than 10%. The falling welfare of the masses will be worse than what it used to be. So, and people don't pay attention. Be it from the government side, from the labor union, and whatsoever. People don't pay attention to this situation. Because if they pay attention, they can really come together and adopt something that will really solve the inflationary challenges of the country. Instead of demanding for increase in minimum wage, then we need to look at what is the domestic economy doing. Is there growth in goods and services within the domestic economy? If there's no growth within goods and services within the domestic economy, then